This episode is sponsored today by the book 10 Tips on How to Survive Your Parents' Divorce. This book was written by kids. It's for kids. It's a coloring book. When you have a tragedy of divorce and you have young children who do not know how to express themselves, this coloring book, 10 Tips on How to Survive Your Parents' Divorce, is the coloring book for them. Pick it up today at blendingthefamily.com or even on Amazon. 10 Tips on How to Survive Your Parents' Divorce. Again, written by kids, for kids.
Welcome to another episode of Blending the Family, the podcast. I am your host, Tommy Maloney. Thank you. Driving while podcasting. This could be an episode, or let me rephrase that. This could be one of the not last, but might be a while before we do another Driving While Podcasting episode because we have turned in our notice. We have one more day at the day job. And I'm super excited. Let's talk a little bit about some parenting. Super excited because going to see, and they're not having a great season, but going to see the Chicago Blackhawks versus the Colorado Avalanche on Friday, March 30th. Super excited because it is a birthday gift for the boy, Connor, and he and I are going to that game. And it's been a long time since I've seen an NHL hockey game. But this is a bonding moment for the two of us. Except I'm extremely bummed. And this is where my advice, if you're going through a divorce, or if you've gone through a divorce, see about making sure your parenting agreement is fair. All right, I'm gonna delve into this right away. My thought process was, this is Easter weekend, and I wanted, because Connor has an extra day of spring break. He doesn't report back on Monday, he reports back on Tuesday. I wanted to see about having him stay for an extra day. However, I did not realize this because you don't think about a lot of the holidays that fall into your parenting agreement, and for some reason, I cannot remember that Easter was part of our parenting agreement, and we do the odd, even years, and this being an even year, I don't have him for Easter. I have to take him back home on Sunday morning, and that really hurt because we're having family over, and he doesn't get to see a lot of his. Well, not a lot. We have one cousin and his fiance coming over, and then our oldest daughter Betsy, her boyfriend's coming over, and those are opportunities that I wish. It's just hard because we have this Friday night, he and I together. And with hockey season for him being over, this is where I don't get to see him as much for hockey. I do get to see him during the week, or have been seeing him during the week because he has high school baseball. So, whoa, we have a car accident up here. Oh, that's not good. Hopefully it's nobody I know. Hopefully. Thoughts and prayers. Hopefully everybody's okay. Everybody's on the phone calling either the police or their insurance companies. I don't know. Anyway, but like I said, Friday night, going to the Hawks game, super excited. So So I gotta think positive. And this is why I'm telling you got to make sure you're looking at your parenting agreement, making sure it's fair for both sides, honestly, for both sides. And I get it. I understand odd, even years, but it's just frustrating for me being just a dumbass, not looking at the parenting agreement, not knowing that Easter was not my year. But it's all good. It's all good. So anyway, here's if you've been listening to this podcast, thank you. If this is your first time listening, thank you again. Very happy that you're listening to this podcast. And somebody emailed me, wants to be a guest on the podcast, because I really don't think about the variety. I think of what is this podcast all about? And in my opinion, it's the best I can is bring you value dealing with parenting. You've heard guests on this podcast talk about parenting, or we've had great authors on this book. One of those that comes to mind right now is Marcus Aurelius Anderson, who's not married, doesn't have kids, but he's got great insights of helping people out and teaching life skills. And so I guess this podcast is, even though it's called Blending the Family, it can be very eclectic. And I'm super excited because somebody reached out, wants to be a guest on the podcast, and we were briefly doing some instant messaging through Facebook. And I'm like, I had somebody else reach out to me through LinkedIn, and I thought this person would be really good as a guest on the podcast, and said, what I'd like to do, and I don't give you a little bit behind the scenes. I think I've mentioned this before, and Marcus Aurelius Anderson is a prime example of this, of somewhat the opposite, and that is I don't like having pre-interview phone calls. I want. Not only do I want a conversation, a one-on-one conversation with the guest on the podcast, but I want to learn things as you're learning them. As that guest is saying something on the podcast, I get to hear that for the first time, just like you get to hear that for the first time. So I rarely ever do any kind of, there's that kind of crap. Anywho, I rarely ever do any pre-phone calls. But Marcus Aurelius Anderson, we had, he wanted to talk to me just to get a feel for the podcast. And oh my God, I really wish I had recorded that, because we had so much, wow. My friend, hey, by the way, shout out to Scott. Thank you for buying me lunch today. That was super cool of you. I'm going to miss you, brother. I'm going to miss everybody at the day job. Just not going to miss the job. Anyway, Marcus Aurelius Anderson, we had great conversation. Like I said, I really wish we had recorded that. And that's why I don't like doing pre-interview calls, because you could have so much great conversation, and then you don't use that conversation on the podcast, on the show. So there you go. Anyway, got some guests coming up in the month of April. Got some great guests coming up in the month of April. So please tune in to that. What do I really want to say? I really want to talk to you, and I'm going to probably keep this brief, that, if you've listened to the previous podcast about taking a leap of faith, that's the that's the direction I'm going in. We all, I don't know, if we all have to go through the pain and torture of having, a day job. And I saw this today on Instagram, where a couple people said they finally found a job they love, and kudos to them. And if you can find a job you love, for me, I love speaking, which stems from training. I love training. I love teaching. I love, seeing people understand concepts and seeing those light bulbs go on and seeing their faces light up going, oh, I get it. And, I'll give you a little bit of, my story with the day job is I don't get it. Light bulbs haven't been going on for me. And it's just frustrating because we all have our purpose in life. We all have the reason why we're put on this planet. And again, if you listen to that previous podcast about taking that leap of faith, is that, if you do believe in a higher power, and ironically, today at lunch, Scott and one of our new friends or new people at work, and I'm saying he's a new friend, he's a friend, Sloan, we were talking about believing in a higher power. And for me, this is just recent. And I know I can say this. I really don't want to speak for Scott and Sloan, but the conversation was believing versus not believing, or really, for the longest time, I never truly believed in God because I needed that proof. And without going into a lot of details right now, I don't want to really bore you, but there have been several times where I needed that proof, and things happen. I'm like, oh, that's not a coincidence. That is not a coincidence. That is truly God's help. And so that's where I am right now. And again, Scott, Sloan, and I, we had I love, and this is something, if you've ever listened to this podcast, you know that I'm not a linear thinker at all. I'm going to jump all over the board, so to speak, but I love the fact that three guys in a car could just have honest conversation, and it's truly a blessing when you can do that, when you can feel vulnerable amongst friends, and be willing to be open to hearing other people's perspective. And something I've been thinking of doing is creating another video show where we can have that, where we can have guys or even women have honesty and talk about, yes, I'll say it, feelings. Talking about feelings, nothing more than, all right, I'll stop singing. So, anyway, back to the parenting. Listen, I don't want to make this sound like a broken record, but you really, as parents, it doesn't matter, dads or moms, make sure you know the inside and out. And this is a learning lesson for me. Learn the inside. I'm thinking too fast, saying too fast. Learn the ins and outs of your parenting agreement. Okay? Don't fall into a disappointment going, oh, I thought it was my holiday, or I had made these plans, and it turns out it's not your spring break, or it's not your weekend, or things like that. And so, again, and I'm telling you, learn through my mistakes. I mean, parent agreements suck. I feel so bad for our kids out there, because they are stuck and caught in the middle of the legalese. Somebody somebody on Instagram posted what is true co-parenting, and I had to think about it. I mean, my answer to some people might be dumb, but true co-parenting is quote-unquote co-parenting, doing what is best for the kids, what is best overall, even for the other parent, okay? Can't tell if this is rain or if it's snow right now. We had snow yesterday, and that was a 2-hour drive home. That's okay. I digress. All right, so leap of, I guess we can call this Leap of Faith Part 2. I don't know. Know your parent agreement inside and out. What is my challenge? What is my next steps? So you're leaving a day job, taking this leap of faith. My aha moment recently was, and if you again have heard this podcast recently, I am using our kids' coloring book, 10 Tips on How to Survive Your Parents' Divorce, as a sponsor for this podcast. That's my first step, is my first week of not having the dreaded day job. I am going, and if you know any family therapists, or if you know any family law firms, they need 10 tips on how to survive your parents' divorce coloring books. They need them. Here is why. In my experience, a lot of kids that go through divorce, this is people I've come across. A majority of them, and kids, their parents have divorced as the kids have been at a very young age. So, for example, in my case, and even my son's case, Connor, we were 5 when I went through my parents' divorce, and when myself and my former wife, when we went through our divorce. So the kids' coloring book is all about helping young children who don't have the communication skills to really express themselves on how they feel about the divorce. And the 10 Tips on How to Survive Your Parents' Divorce is a great tool to help your kids and help your clients if you are a family therapist, a family law firm. How cool would it be, okay? And this is where, for example, my first book, 25 Tips on How to Survive, 25 Tips for Divorced Dads, I've given away more books than I've sold, okay? Because it's a calling card, in my opinion, my view. 10 Tips on How to Survive Your Parents' Divorce. How cool is that? You know, you're a law firm, let's say, and you've got a client, and they're let's say a mom. We'll use a mom as an example. And, you know, besides, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the only time I had to go through a lawyer, and I can talk about this, and that is, I mean, it's no real secret, is that the former and I had to go to court because she wanted to leave the state. And when I had my first meeting with my lawyer, it was, I mean, great guy, great guy. And the staff, oh my gosh, the staff at his law firm in the burbs of Denver, they were fantastic. I mean, they really cared about my interests. But how cool would it be if you went to a law firm and part of that first initial meeting was they learned more about you and your family, and they learned that you had young kids. And they gave you this coloring book to help your kids get through this process, to get through this drama, this traumatic experience. You are a family therapist, and let's say it's the first meeting, and maybe, here we go. Maybe you're maybe a life coach, and part of your business plan as a life coach is you do that, let's say 30-minute free initial meeting, be it through a video channel like a Zoom or a Skype or a Google Hangout, or if it is in person. How cool would it be for your potential client to get that free gift? How wonderful would it be that they see that you really are vested in them, because you understand their needs, and their needs are their kids, and their kids come first. So that's my thought and feeling, is that I know, and it was funny because when we came up with this concept of the kids, originally, give you a backstory on that, originally it was going to just be like, I think it was just going to be a small little book. And then I was working with a marketing guy named Chris, and Chris said, hey, why don't we just turn it into a coloring book? I'm like, oh, okay. So that's what we did. We took the kids' 10 tips. If you've ever seen the coloring book, then you'll know that the cartoon, I guess, to color in is phenomenal. And Terry Sorrell was the gentleman who designed the kids' tips for the coloring book. So Terry Sorrell is just lifesaver, and it really, I mean, between the kids' words, which came directly from them, so Becca and Connor wrote the book. Terry Sorrell created the illustrations, and when we started talking about it to other people, they're like, "That's brilliant! That's a great idea." I'm like, "I know," and I'm really good at helping other businesses with their social media and their marketing, and sitting even at work talking to people about their ideas and how they can take that idea and build a business around it. I'm honest. I'm going to tell you, I'm really good at that. Started a new mastermind group to help people, because I love serving. I love helping people. I love the ability for people to think about, I could do this. I can do this on my own. I don't need my day job. And that's what I'm going through right now, is I need to take my own advice. I need to say, all right, we've got this coloring book. People have said it's a great idea, but it's not going to do the world any good. Those coloring books, even though they're on Amazon, even though they're on our website, nobody's really thinking about that. So I'm going to take the initiative. And now it's snow, by the way. I digress. It's snow. Snow. So that's what I'm doing. Starting Monday, I am going to hit the streets. Going to go therapist to therapist, law firm to law firm, starting in northern Colorado, and if I have to, work my way south. Because I believe in this product, and I believe in myself, finally, that I can grow a business, that I can take everything that I've advised people on doing, and they've ended up taking the advice and being successful. Why shouldn't I listen to my own advice and be successful? So there. And that's all I'm going to say, is that I guess this is Leap of Faith Part 2. And sometimes you just got to do it. You just got to go for it. You know, are you going to sit in that cubicle farm hoping something's going to change? Or are you going to create and stop waiting for something to happen? Because the more you create, the more opportunities are going to happen. One more example, and then we'll be done. One more example. I wrote an email to, I'm not going to give you all the details because it's not official yet. But anyway, I wrote this email about wanting to take my knowledge of podcasting, my knowledge of being in my previous life as a radio host, morning show producer, radio host, or morning show host, co-host at times, and take the podcasting, the producing, developing content, and running somebody else's podcast, creating, interviewing another podcast platform. It wouldn't be blending the family per se. It would be interviewing like authors, so to speak, I guess. But if I had sat around hoping something was going to change, hoping that they saw, the value I've already somewhat provided, I don't think I would have gotten this opportunity, because again, I was waiting. I was waiting for opportunities instead of creating my opportunities. I hope that makes sense. Stop waiting. Go create. All right, that's it. That's all we're going to talk about. I'm super excited about hearing from you, hearing what you're creating. Have you ever taken a leap of faith? What happened afterward? Did you land on both feet? Did the Russian judge give you a 10? Or was there maybe a splat? Please let me know. Comment on the Facebook, Blending the Families, or find me on the Twitter and the Instagram at Blending Family. Email me, Tommy@blendingthefamily.com. Please, however you get this podcast, please leave a review, leave, if you like the podcast, please. It helps. It really helps grow this podcast so we can keep growing it even more and more and get one day get some sponsorship. But that's okay. We've got 10 tips on how to survive your parents' divorce as our sponsor right now, and who knows, that might change. But I'm truly grateful for you. Thank you so much. just simply downloading this podcast. Even if you don't leave a comment, I'm still grateful for you. Thank you so much. All right. One more day of the day job, and then it's speechless. That's all I'm going to say. Speechless.